What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is a video on Transformers Robots in Disguise. This is a video for episode 12. Now, apparently there's more episodes than I thought that were already up, which is great. That means we have a lot more content. Didn't realize that at first, so that's good. That means that this is going to be a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, because originally I was thinking 13 episodes was where they were at. Didn't realize that there's more. I don't know how many more currently speaking, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, this episode is entitled Hunting Season. So, this episode is very interesting. We got a lot of characters showing up in this one. A lot of Autobots, a lot of Decepticons, all of them new. As well as some mini-cons for these new Autobots and Decepticons. So the episode starts off with Danny goofing around with Grimlock and him dressing up in older disguises. We then see Rusty come in. Rusty wants to join him in messing around, and eventually Danny tells Rusty that he doesn't want him to be involved in any more missions. Of course, this would bother most people because he's been in pretty much all these episodes, so he's not very happy about this. But anyway, there's a mission that does end up happening not long after that, and they have to go and figure out what's going on, so they need Danny. And Danny tells B that he doesn't want Rusty to go along. So anyway, following this, they all go to the site, which the reason why they need Danny is because supposedly it's near a hunting ground where, you know, people would be, obviously, and they're worried that there may be people and it might be an issue. So they have to bring them there. So anyway, once there's really no people actually at all there. And we end up seeing our Autobots and our new Autobots and our new Decepticons, the ones we haven't seen yet. So I'm just gonna straight up tell you exactly who is what and what is who, and explain what we find out. So on the side of the Autobots, we have first of all, we have Drift as the main Autobot. We have, for his mini-cons, Slipstream and Jetstorm. For the Decepticons, we got Fracture as the main Decepticon, and for his mini-cons, we got Dive Bomb and Air Razor. So those two. So we have 6 new characters here, which is a big deal, of course. Are these permanent characters? Not necessarily. 3 of them definitely will probably return, but the other 3 I can't say for a fact. I'll tell you which is which later, but regardless, anyway, they're apparently both there to claim bounty on B. And you may think to yourself, why is this so? Well, as many people will remember from the very beginning of the show, B caused some trouble using this base bridge. Yeah. And so, as everyone knows, not a good thing. So people, Autobots, bots in general, not very fond of B, obviously. So anyway, at first, Drift is definitely there for the bounty. What happens is that eventually B and his team joins the fight, and B actually recognizes Drift from where they had been at one point together on some planet or whatever. So he actually ends up helping fight alongside Drift, and Drift wants to eventually repay the favor because he saves his life, because Drift almost gets killed. Drift, if you're wondering, I probably will have an image by this point, resembles a samurai, and his helpers resemble samurais also. Fracture, on the other hand, kind of, like, when I first saw him, he kind of reminds me a bit of Starscream, just in regard to design, not in regard to voice, in regard to design. So that was my first thought, but I know it's not true. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. And his Decepticons, when they're actually transformed into their secondary modes, they actually resemble rockets, which is actually kind of interesting. Kind of like that. But anyway, after this fight, the Decepticons run away, and we then see that Drift explains the whole fact that there's a bounty on B or whatever, and that he was originally going to claim it, but now he's not because B saved Drift's life. So we end up finding out about that, and Drift says that he's gonna do a life debt where he has to basically protect him no matter what. Okay, so that's gonna be interesting, of course. So Drift says that he must stay by him, he must protect B, he must do everything he can to protect him, and of course this could result in all sorts of different things. Well, Drift wants to really do all that, and eventually at one point, when they are at the base, the minicons are told by, Rusty and Fix-It, like how the scrapyard works and how things are working out or whatever, and that's all explained to them. And the minicons are very loyal to Drift. It's very clear. Fracture's minicons are loyal to him too, but to a different extent. I mean, like Drift treats them nicely while Fracture treats his minicons meh. So anyway, following this, eventually we see the simulation game that Rusty's trying to show to the minicons, explaining that he's this commander, which is something unusual because they really don't have anything fun to do normally. Like, all they're doing is listening to Drift, so that's all they know. All they know is to listen to Drift. But Rusty explains this game, and eventually, and that will be important later, but let's hold off. So anyway, following this, B and all the other bots find out that the Decepticons are probably nearby, and at one point there's a power outage that occurs. When this power outage occurs, Sideswipe is told by B to go help Danny find a generator. So they go and look, and Sideswipe acts as a guard because it's dark and they know that the Decepticons could come out. And if you haven't already guessed, yes, that does happen. And in fact, both Sideswipe and Danny end up being captured and knocked out by Fracture, as well as his minicons. The minicons actually knock out Danny. But anyway, they capture him and put him through a portal. Fracture does appear, of course, and eventually they Drift and the Autobots end up discussing things, and eventually Fracture comes out of a portal, and he's ready to do a agreement with B, basically saying, okay, you give me your bounty, you give up yourself so that you could be given up for money for your bounty, and in exchange for that, I'll give back your team, which at the time looks like they're about to be eaten by a creature or something like that. Okay, so what ends up happening then is B is like, I'm not gonna do this, I'm gonna fight. So he tries to fight, and Fracture knocks him out pretty easily. So then Drift and his minicons end up fighting Fracture and his minicons, and there's a whole fighting sequence that goes on. And at one point, what happens is that we also know that at this point Strongarm and Grimlock had also been captured, just as a side note. And anyway, because it wasn't really explained how they were captured, it's just that it's known that they were captured. It's weird, I don't know why they did it that way, but anyway, what happens is that each of them end up fighting together, and at one point I'm just trying to remember now what it was. Right. At one point, what happens is that they all end up fighting, and Rusty ends up getting into a situation where he may have been attacked almost, but the minicons end up protecting him. And at one point, they end up realizing that maybe they could do something with the video game software to possibly frighten Fracture, because it's a video game and he wouldn't know what it is. And it doesn't work very well because the minicons end up spying and finding out that it's nothing. So it's really just a video game, which is nothing, so it's a simulation. So this doesn't affect them that much. But in the meantime, the mini-cons have actually end up taking control of what do you call it? Of what's it called again? The ship of Fracture. So while that's so what happens is that then the mini-cons have the ship of Fracture and they can shoot laser beams at him or whatever. So that all happens, and then in the meantime, what ends up happening is that what do you call it? They end up doing all that, and at one point, Fracture's put into a situation where all the Autobots come back through the portal, and at this point, they surround Fracture, and B's like, Drift's like, no, what was it again? Oh yeah, Drift's like, surrender now, and Fracture's like, no, I will not surrender. You either kill me, and if you kill me, then I will destroy my ship that has your mini-cons, or you let me go. And Drift originally wants to let him go, but the thing is that B comes back from being knocked unconscious and tackles Fracture to the ground. Fracture drops the remote out of his hand, and at that point, they're all fine. So then Fracture says that he will return. So at that point, that's where that's where Fracture says his leave. And as you may have guessed, yes, Fracture and his mini-cons are the ones that are confirmed probably to return at one point, or at least they're saying they will. As we've seen in the past, it seems that a lot of times when they say they will return, usually that means they will return. So yeah. So anyway, regardless of this, they escape, and we then see a discussion that happens with B and Drift, where Drift says, okay, I will let you, I will now say that the life debt has been paid, and I will not cash your bounty because you've shown that you are noble, and that you are a truthful person, and that you are not a criminal, and that you do not deserve to be treated as such. So I will not treat you in the same way that I would have treated you otherwise. And this obviously shows respect for him. So anyway, following this, Drift and his mini-cons go off into the sky, and the episode, for the most part, pretty much ends. What we do find out is that the ship did crash, as we know, but we find out that the ship is not intact to the point that they could use it to travel on, but the ground bridge can be used, so that could be good for certain things. I'm sure that could be good for combining that with the Alchemor somehow, which could be cool. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not really sure. I mean, a lot of these things that they mentioned in the past with like technology that they might be adding haven't really been shown yet, but maybe at one point they will show them. It's very unclear, I guess you could say. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that this is a shorter review again. This is also just due to the fact that I'm able to figure out things a lot faster. I know what's going on. I'm not going to go into crazy detail all the time because I have enough information to really get a general sense of what's going on and tell you guys. So this is just showing that I can figure out things regardless of whatever I may find and watch. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I also hope you guys actually enjoyed the real episode. And also for question time today, I'd like to ask, what's your opinion on like in regard to, do you like mini-cons or not, and do you think that the idea of Autobots having mini-cons attached to them, like Drift and Fracture have, is a cool idea, and that more Autobots and Decepticons should have that feature? And if so, what characters should have it? Because I mean, obviously there have been other seasons that have had mini-cons, but do you think that there should be more characters that we should get in future seasons or series of Transformers, or future iterations of Transformers, whether it be shows or toy lines? Like, what do you think? Do you think so? Personally, I would say that I think that there's definitely some positives to that, and I think that it'd be cool just because of that added element of transformation. Though at the same time, if that were completely real, that could also result in the designs of the bots being much larger to compensate for the smaller size of the minicons. But it's completely up in the air right now. Who knows? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this again, and I'll see you in whatever video I make next, and I guess that's about it. So anyway, guys, goodbye.